Hello class, Jeffrey again. It's going to be a short 5-minute video about what I learned this week and last week about the Garmin G1000. Just a little introduction to myself. I've been flying with the G1000 for pretty much close to 2 years now. I've been using it for my IFR training and VFR flying, but it's such a powerful system that I was really looking forward to this class. I actually almost bought the King's course myself before I knew that it was offered through Liberty. So I'm kind of glad I didn't do that, just save a little bit of money. But I'm super excited to be taking this course and learning more about the G1000 because it's so powerful. If you haven't flown with it much yet and are getting ready to, or haven't had the opportunity at all, I highly suggest finding an airplane with a G1000, trying to get in it and just explore all the really cool things it can do. It really takes the Cessna to the next level when it comes to safety, awareness, and flight planning, all of the above. It's a really great system. So some of the things that I learned, and then some of the things that I already knew but were a good refresher, and maybe I learned a little bit of nuance within some of these features. Starting with flight plans, I didn't know that you could scroll with the range knob on the flight plan using the MFD, scroll to a waypoint, and then hit the load waypoint soft key to store a flight plan. I didn't know that. I always used the big and little soft keys. I became pretty proficient at that. But if you need to in flight, deviate or want to go check out something that you haven't seen before, so you're trying to fly over a certain waypoint, I think it's gonna be much easier to use that range knob, scroll over, and hit that load waypoint soft key. So my next flight, I'm gonna be playing with that a little bit to see what it can do and see how I could use that on my own. I'm a flight instructor, so it gives me a little bit more liberty to, do some things like that. Whereas, as a pilot, make sure that you're playing with that stuff on the ground. You don't want to be looking inside the cockpit too long, losing your situational awareness while trying to learn how to use the G1000. But I truly do plan on getting up and playing with that feature a little bit. Saving flight plans, something I've never really done. I've always flown at a busy flight school, and if everybody saved their flight plans, we'd have a million of them in there. We'd actually be able to max out the 1,000 that the G1000 allows you to have, probably in short order. But I do plan on messing with that. Maybe one day I'll be able to get my own airplane. That's a long-term goal. And being able to save your own flight plans on flights you make routinely would be a pretty cool thing to do. The other thing that I knew, but it was a refresher to me, I haven't used the feature very much, was just simply turning the little FMS knob to the left on the MFD to create that shortcut box. Flight plan items, you can find flight plan items stored in your flight plan. You can find the nearest airport, up to 25 nearest airports, and your 25 most recent waypoints. I think that's great. Really cool feature that I'm gonna again play around with and refresh myself on. It's not something that I use all the time in VFR flying, but I'm definitely looking forward to checking that out as well. Another thing that I knew about but I haven't really used too much is the flight plan view mode. I always pretty much use that narrow mode in the PFD. I like having my flight plan up, unlike what Martha King was saying where she likes to have the big display. I do at times in busy airspace, but when I'm in cruise flight and over less populated areas, I do like to keep that flight plan up on the MFD. But I do want to check out the wide mode too. I think in IFR flying especially, that could be very useful, especially you're in actual IFR. That big map is not as essential to you because you're being guided and putting your trust in ATC, so it could actually help you out quite a bit. I'm losing a little bit of time here. I talked about changing names of flight plan, so I'm going to talk about managing descent really fast. VNAV on the MFD is really cool. Using that VNAV, is really neat, especially, even flying VFR. My airport is underneath a underlying Bravo, so I'm going to play with that. I'm going to load some legs in there where I can actually descend down and step down automatically with the GPS and see how that works in VNAV mode. You do that by going on the MFD, pulling up your flight plan, using that FMS knob to activate the cursor, and moving that cursor to your destination waypoint. And there is where you can set your vertical descents. You can do it prior to the waypoint, at the waypoint, or even after the waypoint if you want to. Minus sign means you're going to descend and be at bottom of descent before. A plus would mean you're going to be at bottom of descent after your waypoint. That's something really cool, something I want to try to play with and see if that's something I can use. Especially flying at night, things like that. It's really fun to use that GPS to step down and kind of fly hands off a little bit. It's pretty neat. Let's see. I'm skipping a few things that I learned this week just for sake of time. The tuning and using the GPS as a super VOR, this is something I knew, something I use pretty constantly, but I did want to mention it. If you guys haven't used it yet or whatever, I highly suggest it. I use this pretty much every time I fly into an airport, whether it's known or unknown. I'll select that airport as the active waypoint, and I'll turn that OBS soft key to the runway heading, and that gives me a bunch of situational awareness where sometimes in my airport we get super busy. There'll be 2 or 3 planes on the downwind, somebody on an opposite pattern, and it really just helps us, or helps me, maintain a little bit of situational awareness, know where I am. That way when I'm looking outside, I can glance right in and kind of know where I am in relation to the runway really quick, especially if I get an extended down leg. The other day I had to extend my down leg like 8 miles. And from 8 miles away, you could be left or right of the runway, and that thing gives you an OBS course deviation right there. It's really cool. Really neat feature, and I felt like mentioning that. Biblical reference. I tried to choose something that had to do with self-awareness and awareness, because flying with this G1000 is all about awareness. It's not about reliance. It's not about using it to avoid having to do a flight plan or paper flight plans. It's about self-awareness. And I picked 2 Timothy 1:7, and it's, "For God gave us spirit, not of fear, but of power and love and self-control." So, this G1000 is something that was given to us by God. He saw a need in aviation for us to be safer, have more situational awareness, and be able to be more professional, more safe in general aviation. It is certainly a machine that Garmin probably didn't need to come up with. Cessnas can fly with 6-pack instruments, no problem. They have for years, but they saw a need. God gave them that desire and that awareness, and his love for us, and his spirit, not of fear, but of power and love. That's what that system is all about. It's Garmin showing us love and God showing us love and giving us such a powerful system that we can use to make sure we're safe. We just have to know how to manage it, how to use it, and how not to over-rely on it is a big thing. So that's my presentation. I know I went a little over 5 minutes. I apologize for that. But it's just such a lot of information I thought I'd like to share with you. Have a good day, and good luck to you guys in the rest of class.